All right, let's be honest. Who hasn't, like, twisted, licked, or dunked an Oreo?
It's practically a rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. But I bet you haven't thought much about what goes into making this seemingly simple cookie so iconic.
Right.
You sent us articles, research, even some of your own notes. So today, we're doing a deep dive into the world of the Oreo.
And there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. I mean,
Hmm.
we often take for granted how complex the history is, the engineering, even the cultural impact of something is, ubiquitous as the Oreo.
So we're not just talking about what's in the cookie, but why it's this phenomenon, right?
Exactly. We'll be looking at the ingredients, the manufacturing secrets, and why this cookie holds such a special place for so many people.
Okay, so let's unpack this. It all starts with the ingredient list, right?
Right.
But instead of just reading it off, what are the key players in this cookie story,
Yeah. Well, it's actually a pretty short list. Sugar, enriched flour, cocoa powder, leavening agents, and a pinch of salt. Simple, but, each one has a very specific role to play.
It's like a cast of characters, each contributing to this masterpiece. But there's got to be more to it than just mixing it all together.
Oh, for sure. For example, you probably know sugar makes things sweet, but it's also crucial for the Oreo's texture.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about specific types of sugar that have been fine-tuned over decades.
See, this is what I love. We're already going deeper than I expected. So it's not just A and Y sugar. What kind of sugar are we talking about?
Well, most recipes use a blend of granulated sugar and powdered sugar. And the granulated sugar gives you that crunch, while the powdered sugar contributes to a smoother texture.
Wow. It's amazing how much thought goes into something we usually just, scarf down.
Yeah.
And what about the flour? That's got to be where the cookie's structure comes from.
Spot on. Enriched flour, specifically, gives the Oreo its signature chewiness. It's like the backbone of the cookie. It provides a base for all those other flavors.
Okay, backbone, check. But let's be real, the star of the show has to be the chocolate.
Of course. And not just any chocolate either. They use high-quality cocoa powder. It's carefully selected for its flavor.
So there's a whole science behind sourcing the chocolate.
Yep.
That's pretty wild. Okay, so we've got our sweetness, our structure, our chocolatey goodness. What about those other ingredients you mentioned? Leavening agents and salt.
Now, those might seem like supporting characters, but they're really important for that Oreo texture and flavor. Leavening agents, like baking soda, create those light and airy pockets. You know how some cookies are super dense and chewy and others kind of melt in your mouth?
Yeah.
That's the leavening agent at work.
Okay, that makes sense. And a light and airy cookie is much better, especially when you're about to dunk it in milk. But the salt. Now, you've got me there. Salt in a sweet treat always throws me off a bit.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. You might be surprised how much a pinch of salt can elevate a sweet treat. It enhances the chocolate flavor and creates a more balanced flavor.
Wait, salt in both parts?
Yeah.
The cookie and the creme, is that, common in baking? Or is this a special Oreo secret?
It's pretty common, actually. Salt enhances flavor, and it works in both sweet and savory dishes. It helps bring out the natural sweetness of other ingredients.
So this seemingly simple cookie is already, surprisingly complex.
Right.
It's like that saying, the simplest things are often the most sophisticated.
Exactly. And we're just scratching the surface here.
Okay, so let's keep digging. We've got our cast of characters all lined up. But how do they go from basic ingredients to the, perfectly uniform Oreo cookies we know and love?
Well, that's where the magic of mass production comes in. We're talking a level of precision and automation that would make Willy Wonka jealous.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Give me the behind the scenes.
Imagine gigantic industrial mixers churning out enough dough to fill, like, an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Whoa, hold on. That's not what I pictured at all. This is serious business.
Oh, for sure. And the key here is precision. Forget hand mixers and measuring cups. We're talking computerized systems that make sure every batch of dough is perfect.
So it's not just about throwing everything in a giant bowl and hoping for the best.
Not at all. There's a lot of science involved. Too little mixing, you get a crumbly mess. Too much mixing, the gluten in the flour develops, the cookies get tough. Every second counts.
Wow, who knew there was so much to making the perfect Oreo? It's a delicate dance between art and science, huh? So once the dough is, perfectly mixed, what's next?
Well, next comes shaping those iconic Oreo discs. And this isn't your average cookie cutter. We're talking another level of engineering.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. Lay it on me. What kind of high-tech wizardry is this?
Picture a massive machine with a rotary mold, stamping out hundreds of cookies per minute.
Hundreds per minute. That's mind-blowing. So every Oreo is like an exact clone of the last one? Talk about consistency?
You got it. It's really a testament to automation and, well, the pursuit of that perfect cookie experience.
Okay, so we've got our Oreo discs ready for the oven, right? But something tells me we're not talking about your grandma's oven here.
You're catching on. Think more like a high-speed conveyor belt, taking those discs through a calibrated baking chamber.
Okay, things are getting really interesting now. It's like a scene out of a futuristic bakery.
Kind of, yeah. And just like mixing, temperature, and timing are super important. Too hot, the cookies burn. Too cool, they're soft and crumbly. The goal is that perfect golden brown.
Yeah, this is where my sweet tooth kicks in. The creme filling. What makes it so unique? So undeniably delicious.
The creme filling is arguably the most iconic part of the Oreo, right? It's pretty simple, but don't be fooled. Achieving that flavor and texture is not easy.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me everything. What are those magic ingredients?
Well, you can't have creme filling without sugar. That's the base of the sweetness and that smooth texture.
Makes sense. What else?
They use vegetable shortening for that melt-in-your-mouth consistency and a little vanilla extract for warmth.
Okay, now those are flavors I can get behind. But it still feels like something's missing. There's something about that Oreo creme,
Well, you know what they say, the devil's in the details. And in this case, it's salt.
Wait, seriously, salt again. I'm starting to think that Oreo puts salt in everything.
It does sound kind of crazy, but trust me, just like in the cookie, a touch of salt just elevates the flavors, makes sure the creme isn't too sweet.
Okay, I'm convinced. Salt is like the secret weapon for deliciousness.
It's funny how something so simple, like salt, can completely change things, but that's food science for you.
Totally. It's those small things, that take the Oreo from a regular cookie to, like, an icon.
Right.
And speaking of iconic, we have to talk about the cultural impact. This cookie's gone way past snack time. It's in art, Super Bowl ads, even causing arguments at the dinner table.
It's pretty amazing how a cookie could be such a cultural, touchstone.
You said something about Oreos in art, like installations made with Oreos. That's kind of blowing my mind.
I know, right? Who knew the Oreo would be so inspiring? But it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
The Oreo is instantly recognizable, it's playful, it reminds you of being a kid. Those are all things that artists love.
So true. And it's not just art. Think about all the times you've seen an Oreo in a movie or TV show.
Yeah, it's often used to show comfort or childhood or just like the simple pleasure of something sweet.
Exactly. Like a character dunks an Oreo in milk after a long day. We instantly get it. It's that moment of peace, going back to something familiar.
Exactly. It's a universal experience, finding joy in everyday things.
And speaking of, we can't forget Oreo's marketing.
Oh yeah, they're good.
They make those campaigns that are memorable but also relatable.
Remember that Super Bowl ad where they...
Don't even remind me, I still quote that one.
Yeah.
They're so good at using pop culture and making it their own. It's how they've stayed relevant for so long.
And they don't just do the big campaigns. They've turned eating an Oreo into a social thing.
Right. The Oreo debates. To twist or to lick or to dunk, these are important discussions.
It's kind of crazy how a cookie can cause such intense debates, isn't it?
It's because everyone has their own ritual. It's personal. You'll defend your way of eating an Oreo to the death.
And don't get me started on the double stuffed drama. Everyone has an opinion on the cookie to creme ratio.
It's a tale as old as time. But you know what I love about it?
What's that?
It's all in good fun. It's about connecting with people, having a laugh, bonding over a cookie.
Absolutely. It shows that even when the world feels divided, we can still agree on how good an Oreo is.
And it's not just here. Oreos are everywhere.
It's true. The Oreo has gone global. What's interesting is how they've changed the product for different cultures.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that. I've seen some wild Oreo flavors.
They're not afraid to experiment. We've got green tea Oreos in Asia, blueberry ice cream Oreos in South America, even watermelon.
Watermelon. Okay, now I need to travel. But that's smart, keeping their image, but using local flavors.
It's a tough balance, but they do it well. It makes the Oreo truly global.
It's impressive. But with all this mass production, worldwide shipping, it makes you wonder about the environmental impact,
You're right. It's definitely something to think about with a product as popular as the Oreo.
So where do we even start? What are the big challenges with making something like an Oreo sustainable?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is making sure they are getting their ingredients ethically and sustainably, especially things like cocoa and palm oil.
Yeah, those ingredients have been in the news. Deforestation, habitat loss, the way workers are treated, there's a lot there.
Exactly. And people are paying more attention to that now, and they want companies to be more transparent.
So what can companies like the one that makes Oreos, what can they do to deal with these problems?
Well, a big thing is working directly with the farmers, the suppliers, to encourage sustainable practices like agroforestry. That helps prevent cutting down too many trees. And then fair labor practices are huge, making sure people are treated fairly.
That sounds good, but I'm guessing it's complicated and takes a long time, right?
It definitely does. You need to build good relationships, give people training and support, and keep an eye on things to make sure everyone's doing what they should be.
And it's not just the ingredients, is it? What about the impact of making the Oreos on the environment?
That's really important too. Switching to renewable energy, like solar and wind power, would be huge. And then making the whole process more efficient, less waste, less water usage, all of that matters.
It's good to know companies are taking steps to help the environment, but it's not all on them, right? We have to do our part.
Totally. We can support companies that are doing the right thing. We can choose products that have those certifications, like Fair Trade or Rainforest Alliance.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. We can make companies explain what they're doing and make our voices heard.
Absolutely. Every time we buy something, we're making a choice. By making smart choices, we can help create a food system that's better for everyone.
It's kind of wild how even an Oreo can get us thinking about such important stuff. Where our food comes from, how it affects the planet.
It's all connected, isn't it? The ingredients, how it's made, the choices we make, we all play a part.
Okay, before we get too serious, I need to lighten things up. Time for a taste test. For research.
For science. I'm in. But before we get to the milk and cookies, what other Oreo mysteries are we diving into?
Okay, so we're back and we talked about, sourcing ingredients ethically and all that, and I'm ready for something a little more fun.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot about the Oreo, the ingredients, the tech, how big it is globally, but there's this one question I feel like we keep kind of dodging.
You mean the big one?
You know it, twist, lick, dunk. Is there a right way to eat an Oreo? I mean, our listener wants to know. They sent in a bunch of articles debating this.
It's funny. For a cookie that's all about being precise,
Yeah.
it sure gets people fired up about how to eat it. And from the research we have, no one's declared a winner. It's almost like it's part of what makes the Oreo special. It's up to you to decide how to eat it.
I love that. It's like this cookie is telling us just enjoy it however you want, no judgment. Although those slow-mo videos of the twist, and that perfect creme spiral, that's so satisfying.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about taste. There's actually a scientific reason why dunking in milk feels so good. It creates this thing called contrasting mouthfeel.
Yeah.
So you've got the creamy texture against a softer cookie. It's like sensory overload.
See, this is what I love about our deep dives. I thought I knew everything about the Oreo, but you've totally changed my mind. It makes you realize even the simplest things can be really fascinating if you take the time to look closer.
Exactly. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do here. Get people curious about the world. Even something as ordinary as an Oreo has this whole story behind it, the science, what it means to people. We just got to pay attention.
So to everyone listening, next time you grab an Oreo, remember, it's not just a cookie. It's like a symbol of creativity, an icon, and it's yours to enjoy however you like. Twist it, lick it, dunk it, go for it.
And hey, maybe it'll even spark a debate or a fun conversation.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for exploring with us.